his medical was covered till midnight by the government. Didn't cost me nothing.
Oh, and you got released when you got released from the Navy.
Yeah, and Kenny was born that day.
The same day.
Same day, September 6th.
Coincidental?
Yes, coincidental.
And if you were not,
I'd have to pay.
Oh
if I
my
went
God,
beyond. See, I wasn't supposed to get out till October. But President Eisenhower just says, hey, we got to cut the budget. Anybody who wants to get released early, they can go 30 days before their actual date. So, I talked to Mom. She was pregnant with Kenny. We didn't know it was Kenny, Back then, they didn't have all that ultrasound.
right.
We just got to have another baby. And she delivered on my last day. Because I chose to get out 1 month early on account of Eisenhower.
So you guys got lucky with...
I got lucky with that. Whatever luck, good Lord, whatever it is, it worked out good for us. Because we didn't have a lot of money. The Navy never paid me a lot of money. The only good thing about the Navy is when I went to college, they paid me like a part-time job. I got a check like $310, $320. Every month I was in college, and I got a C or better because the school had to send out records, to the government.
So after you got discharged,
yeah,
they paid for your... When did you go back to college?
Let's see, 59. Oh, long time.
In relation to the...
I didn't graduate until 76 with a degree. So I didn't go for quite a few years. I didn't do nothing.
So that was when the kids were very young.
Yeah. Because Lori was born the third year I was a cop. I finally got hired, got a break. Nona knew this lady because her Aunt Alice used to have a prime meat store where all the big shots shopped.
Nona's aunt.
No, it was Nona's sister-in-law, okay. Alice.
It's Nona's sister-in-law. Okay.
Yeah, it was Barney's sister that owned a meat market on North Line, and all the big shots went there. All the doctors, lawyers, anybody with money. Because it was all premium cut, good meats. I remember that. Well, when she was there, one of the customers was the chief of police's wife from Trenton. And she got talking with Nona. Nona says, well, my son-in-law is studying now to be a policeman.
Mm-hmm.
She said, well, I'll talk to Bill. Bill was the guy that hired me, Bill Matthews. Big guy, nice guy. He interviewed me, and I got lucky, man. They hired 5 guys that year, 1961, October. I was one of the 5.
So that's when all the kids were born.
No, when I got hired, I only had 2 kids.
Okay.
Kenny and Lynn.
So how were those first few years with Kenny and Lynn? So
they just were busy, We didn't have a lot of money. We got back. In fact, I remember one time, Grandma wanted to have, her mother and dad, my mother and dad, over for Thanksgiving. And she ran out of money from my budget, She said, honey, maybe I'll go to the bingo with Marilyn and maybe I can win a turkey or something. And I remember that. St. Joe's Catholic Church in
So you guys,
Trenton.
You didn't have enough money to
have everybody over for the big turkey. We were short when she started figuring out the shopping. She said, maybe I can win one.
So you were living pretty close to...
Because when I got out of the Navy, I went back to my old job with U.S. Gypsum as a junior accountant. And that's why I found out that that's not for me.
Right.
And I was studying accounting for night school like 3 years. And I started working 9 to 5, and I said, man, I'm more of an outdoorsman. It was just fate. Because I told you a story. In April, I was coming from the cleaners, and I see that police car.
Right, you said that already.
Yeah. And that was fate. Because he said, Bern, how you doing, blah, blah, blah. I said, not too hot. What's the matter? I'm not crazy about my job. He said, hey, Trent's expanding. They're hiring.
So you didn't, in relation to Kenny and Lynn, you were not a cop and
No,
you were a policeman.
I was no, I was no policeman then. This is, remember, I got released in September '59. I went back to my old accounting job
For 2 more years.
for 2 more years till I hired in '61 of October.
So those couple years,
It was tough. We didn't have a lot of money.
What'd you guys do for fun?
Mostly
Do you
family.
remember, like?
Well, the biggest thing in our life, I remember, Grandma, Pat, she loved Christmas. No matter how much money we had, I mean, you can see some of the old movies. In fact, I should dig them out and send it to this guy that does them into a DVD, because those are all good memories. That when the kids used to come up, I had this chintzy 8mm camera with a light on it, and I would take pictures of them, and they're all,
Yeah.
She loved Christmas. Well, you see, my attic is loaded.
Full of that stuff.
I don't know when the girls will get that cleaned up. I don't need all that stuff. I need about 5 items, What are you going to do?
But so that's I'm just wondering what it was like on a typical weekend. Like what did you guys?
We didn't do much. We went over. My mother was kind of an introvert.
Right.
So you'd invite her over for Thanksgiving. She wouldn't come.
Oh,
I got my
really?
own-
Not even for holidays?
No. She'd say, "Oh, I got my own food." I said, "Ma, come on over. We're all family." Well, I just don't feel like it now. Okay. So eventually, Pat stopped asking her to come over. My dad would come over for a visit with the kids and a beer, and then go back home.
Oh, and your dad would come see the young kids?
Yes, my
And
mom wouldn't. I'd have to take the kids there. Oh, that sound carries.
It does it?
Yeah. But that's how it was for several years, That's why I decided, because I never thought about being a policeman until I was almost 25 years of age. When I met that
Right.
kid from Mount Carmel, I said, damn, maybe I could, it was intriguing, you know what I mean? It paid more than I was making, because when I quit there, when I got hired, the boss, Mr. Bill Matthews, the chief, told me I'm hired. I quit my job, I gave him a week's notice, and I got and back then that was a lot of money, in 61. I got an $800 raise by becoming a policeman.
A raise is in that's how much you made more every year?
Every year.
Or-
I was 800 for the whole year. Because back then the average wage was maybe 54, 5600 a year.
So what was your do you remember your salary from your first?
I don't remember. All
Few
I remember
years?
is that when I left there, I was all excited. I started on a day shift. I had to go get uniforms and all that, and a gun, and it was a big thing in my life. And all I remember is that I was making $800 more as a policeman than I did as an accountant with U.S. Gypsum. And it was a good career for me.
So that's that's $75 more bucks a month. That's
Yeah,
a big deal.
I bought a lot of food, and there's always something, especially with Grandma. I mean, if the 2 kids we had then, before Lori was born in '63, if she had the sniffles, she'd be calling the doctor. We always had a doctor bill.
So how did that work with insurance or anything?
There was no insurance, and all I had for major, with the police, and the government wouldn't pay me no more after I got out. We were on our own. Gypsum paid me some, but it wasn't as good as the Trenton stuff.
Right. So
Yeah.
you remember?
I remember
the
that.
kids getting the sniffles and Graham calling.
Oh my God, Dr. Warden, Paige is not feeling good. She's got a little bit of a fever. She's got the sniffles. Can I bring her in for a check? And then Uncle Kenny, same thing.
Wow.
Kenny needs his shots or always something. We had a running bill there. And that guy was so nice. His name was, he was a Canadian that came here to
the
work.
States?
Thomas Wharton was his name. Ma loved him. He was a good guy.
So, but you remember those first years of
Oh, I remember that
pinching,
distinctly.
just pinching money, kind of.
Yeah. And then when I got that police job, I finally got the doctor paid for because I had more money, And he never bugged us. He'd never say, hey, you're late, or, we're going to send your name to collections. No, never. Never. And we finally got caught up and paid him off. Then we went.
So you owed him money. It was kind of
Oh yeah, for office calls, Grandma.
and you weren't like, hey, stop, we can't.
No, we never talked about that. I mean,
Oh,
you
really?
know, I never had baby support in the family, and if she thought the kid should be looked at, you know, who am I going to say? So we'd drive from Trenton to Wyandotte, where the doctor was, because him and his partner delivered, well, Dr. Wharton delivered Lynn, but I think Dr. Whitelock, who was an understudy, younger doctor, you know, to Wharton. For some reason, Wharton was out of town or something. Dr. Whitelock delivered Kenny on the day I got discharged.
So when did you guys move to? How long were you in Trenton for?
Well,
Or when did you get to Trenton originally?
Well, again, it was fate. We never thought about going there. But where we got married, we had an apartment. And the rule, the lady said, and I had to sign a paper.
No kids, right?
No
yeah,
kids.
you had mentioned that. Yeah.
And then after what, 3 months of our marriage, Grandma come home for her job at Nice Nurse. She was a beautician, doing real well. She says, "Hon, I don't feel well." She says, I got to go see Dr. Wharton. I said, "Maybe it's the flu." 2 dumbbells, you know, no protection. Back then there was
No birth control, yeah.
no birth control. And when she came back, she said, "Guess what?" I said, "What's the matter?" She says, "I'm pregnant." I says, "What?"
And she was how old? 19 or 20?
She was 20 then. We got married in June. She was 19. September, she turned 20. I was 22 in June, but I turned 23 in August of our first year of marriage. So I tell everybody, she was 20, I was 23. It didn't matter, you know, we just fell in love, and we never talked about age or kids or what. We just wanted to be together, you know. I loved her company, and evidently she loved mine because we got along well.
And that, so she got the beautician job. So how did you end up in Trenton from Wyandotte?
We started looking in the paper for a house because the lady started seeing Grandma wearing his, you know, maternity clothes, you know, the loose top.
Yep.
And she's no dummy, the lady that owned the house, because we had the upstairs. And it was a nice place. You know, we had to walk up about 15 stairs, but shit, once you got up there, we had a nice living room, I remember. We had a TV, black and white TV back then. Over here we had a little kitchen, you know. Then behind the kitchen there was a big bedroom, just one bedroom for her and I. You know, it was great.
Did you have washer and dryer there?
I don't
shared
think
in the
so.
building?
I think she went over Nona's washer and dryer. I think we didn't have that. Back now you see them like Mackenzie, you know, she's got it.
Luxuries, right?
Yeah. Well, back then there was no such thing. She went over Nona's, did our laundry like once a week or every 10 days.
So where did Nona live at that time?
Lola lived on, when I met your grandmother, I was graduating senior, and she was going into the junior year. And one of my friends said, "Hey," says, "there's a couple good looking girls over there that, you know, thought you and I," it was Norm Tabin. I don't know if you remember that name or not. Well, anyway, he's gone now. He died from Alzheimer's. He was a good friend of mine. In fact, he was an Army paratrooper at one time. After we, you know, split, because, you know, when you get out of high school or college, you know,
Yeah,
everybody goes their own.
changes,
Yeah,
yeah.
everything changes. So it's just one of those things.
So you were looking at.
So I saw Pat, you know, down the hall. I said, "Damn, she's cute, you know, nice figure, sexy looking." I said, "Man, you know," and I had no girlfriend back then because I had broke up in January with this was May, with a girl I was dating. We broke up.
So where Grandma lived
She lived on 12th Street, a mile from the school.
in.
Well, I had this old beat up truck, so I go and ask her, you know, I said, "Hey," I said, "how you doing?" She says, "Good." I says, "You know, I'm Bertie Olin, everybody calls me Farmer." I asked, "What's your name?" She said, "Oh, Pat Missouri." I said, "You going home after school?" She says, "Yeah." I said, "Okay, if I meet you, can I walk you home?" She said, and she thought for a minute. She says, "Yeah." But see, after that, we went out, that was already May, June, July, August. We dated a few times, you know. Took her, she loved the movies, so I'd take her to the show. We'd go to a place called Affolders for ice cream. You know, they used to have big ice cream cones for, you know, $1.50. not like it is now. You know, Sherman's is
Right.
good, but this place too was good too. And then, you know, she went back to school in September. I got a job as an accountant, and we kind of split. You know, we dated other people. But I was saying, when I used to go out with these other girls, I don't know why, but I'd always think of her. You know, like that's what I was telling you about love. It just something that comes, and I figure, you know. And I dated like 3, 4 other good-looking girls. One was from my class. One was bar hop. You know, back then they had driving, you know, like Sonic.
Yeah, exactly.
Back then it was big. And a good-looking girl, I talked to her. I took her out to the movies, but shit, after the movies, all she talked about is her boyfriend up in the UP. So that ended that one. And then for some reason, well, it had to be what, 1953, 1954, I think 1955 or early 54. There was a wedding in Wyandotte that a friend of mine was getting married. I didn't know Pat Mazurek was going because the girl was a friend of hers.
Oh, it was a coincidence you guys saw each
Yes.
other there. Oh.
So I went there and I saw her. I said, "Oh my gosh, what are you doing here?" She said, "Oh, I know Elizabeth or whatever her name was." So I said, "How you been?" She said, "Good." And she's, you know, because she was with a bunch of other girls and I was with a couple of guys. And as she started walking away, I said, "Hey, Pat." And she says, "What?" I says, "Would you like to go to the movie Saturday?" She thought, "Yeah." She said, "I'd like that." I said, "Okay, I'll call you." And that's what started it. Because after that, I don't know if she dated anybody else. I know a couple guys when I was there at her house on 12th Street in Wyandotte. A couple guys would call. You know, I was there like 7 o'clock till 9. You know, we'd talk and play games and listen to music. And a couple guys asked her for a date, and she wouldn't go out.
So this was
1955.
And so you lived out in the sticks.
Yes,
and she lived
I lived
close
I lived
to.
9 miles from school. She lived a mile.
Which was so? What city did she live in?
She lived in Wyandotte.
She lived in
where
Wyandotte
Mount
official.
Carmel was.
Okay.
That's how we met.
So is that where your guys' original apartment was?
No, yeah, in Wyandotte, but it was opposite where she grew up on 12th Street. It was opposite. It was in the south end. And again, in the newspaper. Then going back, when she got pregnant, we knew we could stay there, you know, without having a problem.
So then you went
We
to
started looking for a house,
in Trenton.
and we didn't have a lot of money. I think we saved like $1,500. We didn't have a lot of money, you know. Nobody gave us money. And this house came up over on St. Paul. It was 2-bedroom with a basement, you know. It was cute, but it was small. But it was something we could afford. So we went over there and we bought the house on a land contract.
What does that mean?
It's you don't get a mortgage, you know. You don't pay that bank high interest. You know, you pay like maybe 2-3% lower than the bank does. That's a land contract. And as long as you make your payments, it's like owning a mortgage. So we bought that house. I remember it was like $12,000.
What do you have to put any money down?
Yeah, oh yeah, we had to give
Did you save or did you?
We had to give the guy like $1,500 cash.
Did you get help from?
We had no help. The only time we ever got any help was like at the holidays. You know, instead of getting a gift, no one would give us $50. Yeah, or my mom would give us 50.
But only
Just the holidays.
Yeah.
Other than that, we had no help. We didn't have any help till her and I got organized. You know, we were doing good, and I had that first property there at Crystal Mountain, and we wanted to sell that and go by Early's on Cedar Lake on Skoda, because there was a real nice lake home there that we could get pretty cheap.
So you guys originally bought back to the first house. Do you remember the address? What was it?
Shit, what was it? Yeah, I don't know. It was like 28, 10, 20, 30.
What street?
St. Paul.
St. St.
right
Paul.
near 4th Street. That's how she met Marilyn. Marilyn and her husband, and the two.
Okay, so the St. Paul house.
Yeah.
So when did you move in officially there? Do you remember the year?
Let's see, what must have been. Got married in 6157. And we were there almost 7-8 months in Wyandotte. Then we bought the house, which would have been 57, 58. Probably 59. Because we got married 6157.
So in
That's our secret number.
Yeah. So
And we were living there for 6-7 months. And finally she started showing me. We got the paper and found that house. Just happened to be in Trenton. There was nothing to wind on.
So, but there was nothing you didn't think, oh, we want to move there. It was just,
No, it was just necessity.
Right.
We had to go somewhere, and there was nothing at that particular time in Wyandotte for what we had. You know, we had to give like $1,500 down, but there was nothing for sale in Wyandotte. You know, so that house Trenton came up. We looked at it. You know, we're dumb. You know, young kids in love. It looked nice. It was a good house. The only trouble that we moved in was basement walls. They were all cement block, and it needed work. But we were only there for a couple of years. You know, I was trying to be a policeman. I didn't be a policeman until we sold that house. I got a GI loan through the Navy, no interest. And we found that new house on Longmeadow, brand new. We moved in because we knew the baby was, you know.
So that was like in the early '60s. You moved to Longmeadow.
Yeah, yes, because that wasn't a cop till October '61. So we were there maybe 59, almost 60, 1960. We bought that house.
It was were you, do you remember Nona or Barney, or were they ever like, hey, why did you move to Trenton? Did they come,
I didn't know that mentioned one time, but you know, she didn't harp on it, or
did they come and visit often?
yeah, yeah, a lot more than my mother ever did. You know, my dad would come over quite a bit, see the kids, but I had to take the kids over to my mother's house. You know, she was like an introvert. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Terrible.
How was the relationship with the young kids? Like, did your dad want to see them? Did Nona and Barney want to see them a lot, like as grandparents?
Not excessively, I don't think. You know, it was just normal. You know, because Barney was still working. You know, and my dad was still working, so they didn't have a lot of time to, you know, except on weekends. Well, back in the old days, I told you Sundays were, you know, real quiet. There's not much going, so they would come over, and you know, Nona would help Pat fix, you know, something good, because Nona was a good cook, and that's how we got along.
But so it wasn't like you and Graham being really involved with the grandkids now.
Back then, no, not as much.
Yeah.
No, I could say that, not as much. But like I say, when I got that idea to be a policeman, you know, I started studying, because I told you I took the first. I must have saw him in March, because I didn't know what a civil service test was, other than it's 3 hours long, and I wasn't really prepared. You know, I've been out of school for 7 years, and a lot of the stuff is, you know, mathematics, fractions, daily events, spelling. I remember that.
So you were studying that.
At that time, I wasn't. I took the test in April.
Did you didn't do well on it?
No, I come in 18th out of 43. The chief called me.
Right.
But it wasn't Chief Matthews. It was a different chief. Earl Henniger was chief then, and he called me in. He said, "All your scores are good," but he says, "You know, we'd like to consider you, but you said you got to bring your marks up."
So do you remember when you had the young kids? Do you remember studying?
Oh yeah, every chance I had, I'd go in the kitchen and you know, study this. Was it Cliff Notes?
Yeah.
You ever hear that?
Yeah. You had mentioned that before.
Yeah. I got those books in English. I got it in math. Because before, everything I did when I left school and went to night school, it was on a calculator. I remember it was a big Frieden calculator. That thing would multiply percentages, subtract. I never had to use my brain. Then I realized when I took that when I took that test, there was like 10 problems. You had to add these columns up, and you're under pressure because they gave you so many stopwatch, so many minutes to do it. Like 8 and 7 is 15. Another 8 is 23. I can do that now, but I learned to do it. Back then I didn't know, and I come in low on that. So I got the books, and they started hiring in end of September, and I got hired in October 20th, 61. And that's when they sent me to the tailor and new uniforms and everything, and
So we
had 2 kids then.
So you were a policeman, then you and Graham had Lori.
1963, Lori was born in June 30th. It was hot. I remember I come home. I worked afternoons. I got off at 11. I came home. She wasn't feeling good. Barney and Nona were there with her till I come on, till I changed and got my pajamas on, and we all sat there, and her and I held hands, and it's rough on a woman, And next thing you know, her water broke, so I had to take her to the Trenton Hospital. The other 2 kids were born in Wyandotte Hospital. But I had some coverage now with the police, a lot better than I had with Gypsum. So we didn't have any big problem,
So
then Lori was born.
Right. So what, I'm wondering about, like when they first started to get into kindergarten and school,
Yeah, Grandma took care of that, because, as a policeman, most cops work shift work. And every month we had to change shifts. So a lot of times, like in afternoons, I'm in a police car, and Grandma had to take care of the kids. I give her a lot of credit.
She didn't gripe about it?
No, she never complained. She took care of them, and, then after I do afternoons, I went on the day shift, which was good, because then I was home more. We could go shopping together, stuff like that.
And do you remember being involved with the kids when they were young? Did you have that sense of like,
oh yeah,
I'm a father?
It's a instinct, Oh yeah.
Well, some people aren't like that though.
No, but her and I were, with carrying them and that. And I told you that one time. I think your mom told you about that story, or somebody told you. They wanted to go somewhere. They had a free meal at. Well, your old man, your uncle, grandpa likes that. Sibley Gardens.
Yeah, yeah.
They had a free meal there for some reason, and they asked Grandma and me, can you watch Brad till we get back? It was only like 3 hours. Holy shit! When they left, I remember you looking around. Grandma's holding you, and you were looking around your surroundings, and poor Grandma's trying to calm you down. She said, "Hon, you take a shot at it." Man, you were throwing a fit for an hour and a half.
Because my parents left and...
Yeah, and you were in a strange house. You were very cognitive of your surroundings. Because I remember your head was going around, and Grandma's holding you in the kitchen, and they went out the side door in Trenton. And Longmeadow, which is...
So you said you always felt, though, that fatherly instinct then? It was like...
Yeah, it's like, I don't know, it's just like, I told you, when you fall in love with somebody, it's there, You don't plan it.
Well, you think, was your mom and dad very nurturing? Or Nona and Barney?
My mother was more. My dad was, again, he was an old steel worker, and he was when we were young. I remember, he'd go to work, and he'd give us a hug and kiss, me and my brother, because my sisters didn't come in until way later. It was just me and Ed. And I remember that, but then as we got older, he didn't do that anymore. So like you're growing up, you don't,
right.
We're not going to hug or kiss.
But that sense of, I feel like back in those old days, it was like, were young people, when you started hitting 14 and 15, were you seen as more of a man you think back then as the kids are now? You know, when you
I-
did you feel that maturity when you were at that age? Like you need to work, you need
like
to
how I
like
felt when I was 14, 15.
yeah.
I don't know. I thought I was just an average kid back then.
Well, I'm saying like when your dad was like with you, in
Well-
his eyes, that's kind of grown up. You know?
Oh
Like,
yeah. There was no, you know, I love you or hugging or kissing. You know, the only one we ever kissed, I remember when I grew up, was my mother. You know, like Easter or Christmas or her birthday, because Grandma never forgot none of those. I mean, she was good about that. Between Barney and Dora and Gus and
Right.
Eva.
So then you felt like when you were affectionate with Kenny and Lynn and Lori.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, oh yeah. You don't want anything to happen to them, and as you get older, you kind of, I don't know, like they're growing up, you kind of lose that, that tightness feeling that hey, they're young
They're
people.
their own
you
people,
know?
yeah.
Yeah, they all got
Yeah.
their driver's license. I used to take them out in Woodhaven there by the high school, teach them how to drive.
Yeah. Well, now I want to know like what were some of the big memories of when they were young? You know, when they were younger. You know, what did you guys? Did you go camping together? What did you guys do
we
as fam?
camped. Yep. When I don't know how old Lynn was when we bought our first trailer. And I don't know how we got into that. Grandma and I just talked, we'd like to try camping. So we went out, we had a tent. And what you know, the second day we were camping up in Portage Lake, off of 94, it poured. And we had 3 kids. I'm over here at the edge. Grandma's at the other edge, and we got 3 kids in sleeping bags. Funny as hell when you think about it.
Yeah.
Grandma sneaks over, hon. It's soaking rain out there. We better maybe go home. I said, hon, there's no use going now. It was like 5 in the morning. She woke me up. I said, let's wait till, the kids get up and go from there. And after that, we left. We packed a wet tent. I had to open it up in the backyard to dry it out. Stuff like that. But we kind of liked it. And that's what she said,
So that was something you guys did.
Well, no, the next year we did, is we rented one of those pop-ups like you see.
Yeah.
Those Pumas. We rented one of those. There was a guy in Flat Rock that was, reasonable. For $90 you get a week with, one propane tank and you're on your own. Well, that was a lot better than a tent. You're off the ground, had little cupboards. Grandma liked that. But one day I remember we were at this place called, your mom remembers it too. It's called Sugarloaf Lake, near Portage Lake, and out in the sticks there at 94. It's right on the edge between Chelsea and out in the sticks. It was a nice area. And I remember we met a couple from Ohio, Toledo, and their parents owned a small, like a 19-foot regular house trailer. So the kids were playing, because we were like, from here to that house away, in a pop-up that we rented, and they were in a
Super
unit.
deluxe.
Yeah, well, it's deluxe compared to that, because we get over there and say, oh my God, it's nice in here. It wasn't damp, or we had dampness in that tent, kind of the canvas.
Yeah.
They had aluminum, So we sat there and we had coffee and donuts, and I remember, the kids were playing, doing stuff. The 3 of them with their 2 kids, and they were nice people. I can't remember their name, but so we figured, hey, if we ever go camping again, we need something like this. Then I started watching a Sunday paper, and one came up. It was an Elm Park fireman. He wanted to sell his trailer. I think it was a 17-footer, but it was sweet. Had nice birch cabinets, and we made him an offer. He took it. I don't know what he got. I don't know. He wanted like $1,100. I got it for like $9. But it was super. And then I had to
So
learn.
that's what you guys did. Like that was like family vacations
we bought that
and stuff.
used trailer for our family vacations. I remember that one time I left. I had to work midnights. What I would do though is I'd take the kids, Grandma and the kids, because everybody wanted the spot on this lake, because it was like a family lake camping, and you had to get a site. So we'd go Thursday, I'd drop her off, and then Thursday night I would leave to go back to Trenton, get ready for my midnights. And then I finished up Friday morning. I get a couple hours sleep. I get in the car and join them. And at one time, I come over there, and usually, you know, the doors are flimsy. The door was locked. I said, Pat. She says, yeah, who is it? I says, me. I says, let me in. So what she had done, she took one of those wooden steer spoons. She put that between the unit and the door so nobody could jam it in there. That's why I couldn't get in. She said, hold on, I got to move that. I don't know how she called it, spoon or something.
Yeah.
But it was a wooden, I remember it was wooden long. She had jammed it so nobody could get in.
Where was that? You said Sugar?
Sugarloaf.
Sugarloaf.
Well, no, she remembers that spot. It was real nice. Shallow water, clean, you know.
You guys did swimming? You just hung out there?
Well, we swam with the kids a little bit. Oh, yeah, Grandma was a swimmer. I was. You know, we'd take the kids out, and you always meet somebody, you know.
Right.
Especially your mom. There's always a dog there, you know. I remember one time we went to a little fancier place in Brighton, and I was busy with the trailer getting everything, you know, because you got to stabilize it and all that. So naturally the kids want to get out, you know. So they're bumming around, and when I got done, you know, Grandma's going to fix us a pot of coffee. Where's Lori? I said, well, I don't know. I said, I was taking care. I thought you guys were watching her. I said, I was taking care of the trailer. So she sends Lynn and Ken to look for her. From here, probably to Dale's, here she comes with the damn dog on the leash coming back to our trailer. Lori, where you been? Mom, I just saw that dog and I just wanted to pet him and walk him. The lady said I can walk him. So she gets the dog and comes back. And she was just a little shit.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, 6, 7, 8, no more than that.
And so when you, now I'm curious about like
What?
the neighborhood you guys grew up on in Longmeadow. Were there kids around?
It was all kids.
So all the kids.
It was a young block. Everybody had kids.
And they just went out, and that's how they
Yeah,
spent
they played with, you know, they got close with the ones across the street, which is that Vicky, and I can't remember his name, the kid. Kenny used to chum around with him quite a bit. You know, or they'd come over our house, and in the winter they'd go in the basement, you know, play. I had a little gas fireplace put down there, and TV. You know, after we got a few bucks, we put a room down there, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Plus I built I had blueprints, how to put in a 10-foot wide closet, you know, with paneling and that. It told you what you needed, how to do it. And, you know, I never learned that from my dad. I learned painting from Pat's dad. My dad probably painted once in 20 years that I remember. 20 years.
So
He painted one kitchen.
Like, did they help you with housework and stuff sometimes?
Oh yeah, Barney would help me all the time. My dad was working shift at the steel mill. He wasn't around that much.
What steel mill was it, real quick? Do you remember?
I think it was in Ecorse. Great Lakes Steel was a division of National Steel out of Pennsylvania. No, we liked that trailer. In fact, the last trailer we had, we bought it brand new. We knew what we liked. It was a little bit bigger than we had 3 trailers. We had the Gem from the Allen Park Fireman. Then we bought a Winnebago from a Dearborn dentist. And we said, well, that's it. You know, we sold I had no trouble selling it. I lost a few $100, but
you got use out of it, yeah.
Oh yeah. But then the last one, it was called an fan, made in Indiana. For us, it had a shower. It was, you know, John. It was well made for 20 feet. It was perfect.
So you just
And we ordered it. It was like, I think we paid $3,200 for it, and I had it for a couple of 2-3 years, and I sold it to a black Detroit policeman for $2,800. I only lost like $450 on it, and we were all over with it. We took it to Yellowstone and back. Oh yeah. I don't know how your mom don't remember that.
She does tell me about that.
A little bit, yeah. It was beautiful country.
So the vacations and stuff.
Well, that was 1975. We went to
Yellowstone.
Yellowstone. A lot of driving, you know. I had this drive.
Graham didn't drive. Was
inside
that
me. No, she never drove much. I think she was a good driver, you know.
Well, you think it's because of the women's?
I don't know. No, I don't think nothing was that. She just didn't enjoy it. Like you were saying, 2.5 hours, you know. Hell, I drove 10 hours to get to Iowa from here. You know, from
Yeah,
Trenton.
and you liked it.
I enjoyed it. You know, she would play the radio and take care of the kids and make sure they had drinks, and we'd stop at, you know, a restaurant. She'd run in, and no, we had a good time. We enjoyed it.
But you never did.
But it's far, I'll tell you that. Well, you've been there.
I
Colorado,
never,
yeah, you do.
Colorado,
For
yeah.
that school trip, skiing trip.
Yeah,
You, Mackenzie, Mom and Dad. It's a long haul.
but you never did any vacation stuff like that with your family growing up.
No,
You guys never vacationed.
not with the Olanders. A couple times we went on vacation with Barney and Dora. I remember 2 for sure. You know, I found a cabin through a buddy of mine that knew this lake somewhere by Mio, Michigan, M-I-O. And we rented that for a week. Well, Barney and Dora split it with us. You know, it was like, you know, maybe $400 a week. Because they had 3 bedrooms, you know. Me and Grandma had a bedroom. The kids all slept in one room, no problem.
When Grandma was growing up, did she take vacations with
No.
Barney and Dora? So vacationing wasn't a big
No.
thing when you guys were young.
No, I never heard the word vacation when I was young. We never went out to eat. I didn't go out
Really,
to eat.
you never heard nobody.
No, I never went out to eat till.
You were saying that in the basketball thing, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
The priest, Father. I don't know how.
And was that you think
Father,
that?
his name was Crick, like KRCH or something. I mean, I don't know how that's Polish, but he was a Polish guy.
Was that common then, you think? People just didn't vacation? That was just the way of the times?
Yeah, nobody went too much. You know, it wasn't a big thing. But going out to eat just started to get. Because you've been to Civic Gardens. Well, imagine when that thing was first built.
That was a big deal, right?
This priest took us there. Oh my God, you know, and I never been in something like that. Beautiful restaurant, you know. Have what you want. Just order it. I never had that with my parents.
So did you feel like when you had kids then, were you and Grandma like, was that a conscious thought? You were like,
Oh,
we
yeah.
want to do stuff with our kids. We want to.
Yeah. I remember her and I talked. I'm not going to be like my mother and dad, you know. Get it, Brad.
Mackenzie, you can call her back.
Oh, okay.
Well, we're recording.
Anyway, no, we never did that.
But you and Graham had a talk though of like, hey, we're gonna.
Oh yeah, yeah. We decided, you know, come vacation time, because I got back when I started as a cop, I get 2 weeks vacation. You know, and you're up on the bottom of the totem pole, so you know. And I started in '61, and I didn't get 3. I think I got 3 weeks in the '70s. That's why we went out west. We had 3 weeks. And we took 2 weeks to go with the kids to see Yellowstone and Wyoming, a rodeo, Cody, Wyoming. You know, we took them there.
And was that a big deal?
Oh yeah,
During
that
that
was big.
time, yeah.
Then we had that real nice trailer. I had no trouble. I had a Chrysler station wagon back then with a good hookup. You know.
When did you when did you guys buy your first car? Was that something you and Graham? Was it like?
No, because I had a car when I got married. I had payments, but I had a 1955 Mercury, blue and white. I remember that.
That was your first
Car.
That was like your own first
new
car.
Yeah, it was brand new. I was working at Gypsum then and dating her. Yep. And that's where Lynn was born, you know, because she had labor pains. We already had that little house, you know, I told you about in Trenton on St. Paul.
Mm-hmm.
And that morning she woke up about 4 in the morning with a stomach ache. She said, "Hon, I better go to the hospital. I don't feel good." I said, "Okay." Well, back then we were going to Wyandotte with Dr. Wharton. Well, she gets in a car and she says, "Oh, that's what's the matter." She said, "My water broke." And here's the seat.
In your new
No
car?
leather, brand new. You're old. And I figured, Jesus, I'm gonna have to clean that up. It's just fluid, you know. Didn't have much of a odor or anything. But I remember that.
Yeah.
Brand new in my car. She loses her water. I thought, oh, shit. So there was no cops around. I think it was a Sunday maybe because there was no cops. I mean, I was speeding to get her to Wyandotte Hospital from Trenton. We made it, you know. Then they put her in the delivery room and she didn't have the baby till Lynn was born the next day. So, but I remember that.
So what the...
But we did talk about, you know, taking the kids somewhere.
Right.
A couple of times we'd go out for hot dogs, you know, to a park. She'd bring the stuff, I'd bring the hot dogs, and, you know, her and I liked onions, mustard, and she'd bring, you know, macaroni, cheese for the kids, and we'd go out for a little picnic, just 5 of us.
Right.
Yeah. We did that several times. In fact, we had a couple of pictures of that.
What was the... And was that... Like, you guys think you were kind of the average people in Trenton, you know, like...
Yeah, it seemed to be.
Yeah.
You know, I think we were a little bit above average for traveling, you know. Basically kind of me. Wasn't Grandma, me. I like to go. Because that one year I said, God, because originally at our honeymoon we were supposed to go to Miami. We had it all set up, and something come up that we did. We were supposed to go in January. Original plan was to get married in January,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and go to Florida. I heard a lot about it. Back then, my family went nowhere. And her family went nowhere. All they did is go up the Iron Mountain.
So that was a big deal for you.
Oh, it was a big thing.
Yeah.
I couldn't wait to see Florida. Well, we never made it. For some reason, I can't remember now. I wish she was here. We couldn't get married till June. And then, you know, we figured we're not going to go to Florida in June because it's 90 and humid. So she decided, let's go to Pocono Mountains. And that's when she tells you about that horse thing.
Mm-hmm.
That poor girl, she got bouncing. Her thighs are all bruised. I said, oh my God, what a honeymoon. Jesus. But anyway.
So you guys were kind of just like the average family in Trenton.
We
you
were.
know, like...
But we were a pinch above average because no other cop had a trailer but me. You know, at first. Later on, a guy by the name of Art Sasadny from Wyandotte, a Trenton cop, he bought one for him and his wife, but they didn't like it. They tried it 2 years and he wound up.
What do you think of those? Like, what did people do back then, just in general?
Movies was big. Driving movies was big back then, and your grandmother loved it. That's where I got that mosquito stuff from. Because one time the damn mosquitoes, you know, and it was hot. Back then, cars didn't have air.
Right.
And we had 3 kids back in the station wagon. Her and I up front with our Pepsi and chips. I remember that. She had stuff for the kids. And then all of a sudden you hear, bzzz, God damn mosquitoes. Well, one time she said, I'm going to get some popcorn. Well, she went over there to the store at this, well, you don't know what I'm talking about. Ford Street used to be a drive-in theater. Now it's a big Myers. But anyway, she went there to get us some popcorn. And she found this, you know, mosquito thing. And the lady said, hey, it really works. You know, for some reason, this smoke, they don't like it. They get out or they die. And that's one I bought, PIC. In fact, I try and get a box for everybody. You know, because it's hard to find.
Mm-hmm.
The original pick was made in Canada. This guy had an idea. How he took, you know, this green plant, like a cactus. He formed it into a loop.
Yeah, I've seen those.
And when you started it, you see it, it's smoke. Once you started that fire, it didn't go out. You know what I mean? Until it burned itself out or you put it out.
But that did the trick?
Oh, hell yeah. We put it, between us, and that smoke got back there, and shit, no mosquitoes. And it was Grandma who found it. But I used it on my fishing trips later on, and man, it worked great.
Did you guys do a lot of stuff as a family? Like, did Grandma ever go somewhere with the kids by herself, or did you ever
Well,
take...
she went to the zoo with the kids, from school in Trenton. because you already went to school in Saline. That's another era. But our kids, you know, your mom and Kenny and Lynn went to Trenton schools.
Yeah,
And they have like a busload going to the zoo. You know, and she would go as a chaperone with the kids.
so she was very involved.
She was very involved. In fact, when Lynn became a Girl Scout, she was she volunteered to be a leader. Once a month, they'd go down to a little shack there by Trenton, by the river. It was owned by the Girl Scout or Boy Scouts. You know, it was nice. I was there, all Knotty Pine, and, you know, they had sleeping bags and air mattresses. You know, it was kind of nice, and she would go spend a weekend with the kids, and, you know,
Right, yeah.
she enjoyed that. And I'm sure, I don't know about your mom so much, but I remember Lynn going a lot, and then Kenny. I used to go with Kenny. When they had like an overnight meeting, they were looking for chaperones. Me and this other guy was always there, Mark Tanova, you remember that name?
Yeah, yeah.
His father.
So you chaperone that stuff?
Him and I would chaperone the weekend, watch the kids, make sure nobody's screwing with them, they're safe, you know. Of course, they also had a, you know, older guy that ran that camp. You know, he had the meals and fires, and, you know, we just went along with it. But, oh yeah, I remember several of those trips.
And
Kenny.
so that's something they did, like with sports, young kids sports leagues, was that a thing? Like what did the little kids do?
No, it wasn't anything back then. No. The kids didn't get into till high school.
Oh, really? There was nothing like in elementary school?
There was nothing before that, no. It was just, you know, what they call sandlot. You know, the kids would get together and play ball and screw around, but there was nothing organized till the kids got in high school.
Wow.
Lynn got into the band because she could play the clarinet. Kenny got into wrestling because he liked that. You know, I tried to get him in baseball or football. Nope, he didn't like that. Well, like you. You never liked hockey. You were young, but when you got older, you love hockey. You know, ice skating.
Mm-hmm.
See, that's how it changes. But you came along that era that they started having kids. Playing
With
basketball.
young stuff, yeah.
Baseball, young kids. That's when it started. But when your mother and dad were young, they didn't have that. Not till high school.
So what did kids do when they were, I'm wondering about like elementary, when kids are 9, 10, 11, what do they do over the summers? You know, just
I don't know.
Bikes, go
Not
out?
much. Bikes, you know, playing around tag and that. I remember with the kids, you know, playing in the street.
So it's not like nowadays where kids just sit inside and TV and video games.
There was no TV. Wasn't big then.
So kids were just out doing.
Yep, that reading. And they like movies. Movies was always big. You know, that was a big night. We get together and a good movie came on over the Wyandotte Show, drive-in. And Grandma did too. She loved movies. Well, you know she loved TV.
Yeah.
She loved the movies too. So she'd pack the kids up in a little basket.
So that was a big deal.
Yeah,
that was like the thing.
We'd go there and sit there till dark. You know, you had a speaker here. You know, they had like a bar with electricity with a speaker. And you took the speaker off and you put it on your window. It had like a hook. And you could hear what the movie was saying.
And those things were packed? They were crowded?
Oh, they were crowded, yeah. If you want to get, you know, we always like to get in the middle, plus middle of the crowd. So we had, you know, we still went there at daylight, just getting dusk.
So that was...
That was big.
Right, it was like it wasn't just like you showed up right before it started. It was you guys got there and
no,
you
we
hung
got
out.
there maybe a half hour before it started.
Yeah.
Then once it got dark, you know, the previews came on, and you know, I remember I'd go or she would go. We never left the kids alone. It was either her or me going to the concession stand to get, you know, popcorn and maybe a candy bar.
Mm-hmm.
Because she always had Hull Ice, you know, her pop was always in the car. So, yeah, she was a trooper when it came to that, and she didn't mind it.
So there was nothing... Do you guys ever have disagreements on how you wanted to do parenting, or you were always pretty much on the same page?
We always agreed on that. We never had any problem. I think the first problem we ever had was with Uncle Kenny was hanging around with a couple of kids in the neighborhood that were, you know, a little shady. And one of the kids in his group, there was 3 of them there at Kmart, and one of them was caught stealing. Then the cops come over and dropped them off.
Dropped Kenny off to your
Yeah.
place.
Yeah, I remember that. I don't know if he was in 8th grade, maybe. Seventh or 8th grade. Yeah. But he was with the other kid that stole it. So the cops picked up all three and brought him home.
And what was the?
Well, just, what did happen?
Did you give him the belt? Because I feel like he has
I
one
think
story.
I did. I think I gave him 2 on the ass with the belt because I warned him about this guy, Emmett Gundick. I was a big bully, for his age he was big. And I warned him, I said, you got to stay away from that jerk. Because I didn't bother the kids much. And neither the grandma, but
So you were never like.
That's the only time I ever did any punishment at all was Kenny.
Oh, so Lori and Lynn were kind of goody.
They were not just goody, they were just good kids. They never got in trouble. Never had a problem with them. Except Kenny was the only one that the cops said, hey, your boy was with a kid that was stealing stuff. Keep an eye on him.
And
Because naturally, I was pissed. I was mad
Right.
because I had warned him about this Gundick kid. Don't hang around with him. And he's the one that was caught snitching, stealing. And him and that Polanski kid were involved. They were 3 together, and that's who they brought home. But after that, I never had a problem with Kenny.
No.
Nope. He was a good student, and he got in high school. He liked to wrestle, and we'd go see Grandma and I, if I was off, we'd go see the wrestling matches.
Yeah, was the high school sports a big thing? Like when?
Oh yeah. Basketball. Well, your dad was a great athlete in Trenton High. I think he played.
Football?
I know for sure he played basketball and football. I don't know about baseball. And he was a good athlete. And I don't know about your Uncle Jimmy. I can't remember too much about him.
But the point, just like, did you remember going to high school basketball games and high school football games? Was that kind of part of? I'm curious about the culture, back then of.
Well, that was big in the family, Kenny loved wrestling, so we'd go to matches, different places. He'd go by bus with the Trenton High School. And Grandma and I would, if we were available, and I could make it, we'd drive and go see him. And he was good. He won a couple of awards for wrestling. And he was like 156 class back then.
Oh, really? In high school?
Yeah, he was thin and wiry. Yeah, I remember because, when he'd get a day of the match or the day before, he wouldn't eat much. Because he had to watch his weight.
Mm-hmm.
That's how they match. Now, I don't know, probably the same thing.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah, you go by weight. If you're 156, you're in that class between 155 and 160. And he wanted to be, lower, because better odds to win, And he did good.
So do you guys remember trying to, like, you said Lynn was the marching band. Did did Lori
Lynn,
play any sports?
Lynn was one of the reasons we sold the trailer. Because we were supposed to go on a trip that summer, and she got selected to go to a band class for a week, and she come out of that, she was a drum major.
And she didn't, why did you sell the?
Because, nobody wanted to go camping anymore. And Grandma and I, without the kids, it wasn't the same, just, her and I.
Right.
We'd rather go to a movie or, something like that.
So once they started getting older, the kids,
Yeah. That's what changed it. I had to put an ad in the paper, and I had a couple of guys that come over, and the guy that gave me the best offer was a black Trenton policeman. And I said, Gio, are you going to travel with this? And he says, no. He says, I want you to tow it to my house. He says, I'm going to, there's a campground in Canada. Okay, but back then it was real easy to get into Canada, and it was cheap for Americans to go to Canada. So he had a park there somewhere around, I don't know, Kingsville or Colchester, somewhere on Lake Erie.
And as a black guy, you never thought, I'm not, like, there was no animosity or
back
anything?
Back then there was not high crime with the black.
So you didn't think
nobody was afraid to go to there.
Okay.
Because that was part of the agreement. He gave me $2,800 cash, gave me a check, a credit union, and with the understanding that I delivered a trailer to his house. And he was on 7 Mile in Southfield back then. I remember that.